Good morning, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. How are you this morning? Hold on one moment. Can I help you? Okay. Sorry, people. It's a phone call. Good morning. It is happy Halloween. Hold on. What do you think? It's the Mad Hatter Chapeau. Always makes the Halloween thing easy. And there we go. So, happy Halloween. Good morning. I hope everybody had a great night's sleep. I didn't. Happy Halloween. This is one of those flashback days. I think that a lot of us flash back to younger times. This is one of those days that always makes me think back to being a child. Candy, I'm sorry to hear that. I am really sorry to hear that. It's every day. It really is. It's every day that someone does that. Sadly, Michael J. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. Today, I wanted to talk about this is a subject we've done a bunch on the lifeboat, and we'll probably do a bunch more for as long as the lifeboat is around, because this is one of those things that is a reality for anyone who's trying to get sober. You're going to have to come to grips with things that you've done in the past while you were under the influence. And it is something that in many ways you can get by your past, but you're still going to have to live with the repercussions of it for the rest of your life. Right? That is the way it is. And one of the things that I beat the crap out of the most around here is that the things that you did under the influence are not things that you did under your right mind, right? No one in their right mind does X, Y, Z. I look at the things that I did and realize that nobody did any of these things in their right mind. And this has been an ace in the hole for me for a long time, because coming to grips with robbing more than one bank, or coming to grips with spending, say 13, 15% of your life behind bars is something that is a daily function of somebody that has done time, right? Every day you get up and you try to go about living the best life you can live for the rest of the time that you have been here, or for the rest of the time that you're going to be here. And it's in the back of your head is always that, my God, how much time did I waste? Right. And I think the maturity level in sobriety, at least for me, started, and I am not saying by any stretch that I'm mature in my sobriety, but the start of the process of maturing in my sobriety was the acceptance of the fact that there's nothing that I can do to change the person that I was for the rest of the time that I'm on planet Earth. That's part of the deal. And it's going to be the same way for you. Now, the good news is you probably didn't rob any banks or do anything heinous, right? But we've all got something that we did that when we look back on, we are ashamed of, or we struggle with, or we realize that it is something that is a part of our life, whether we want it to be or not. Very often, the things that we've done affect not just us, but the people around us. And not just now, but forever, right? So this is something that you're going to have to learn to come to grips with. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. I'm really struggling with this one because I just saw the person last month and he was doing well. Depression is real and it can be deadly. Check on your loved ones regularly. That's excellent advice. It really is. It's excellent advice. And it's something that we should all try to do. Do not ever lose sight of the fact that the person that you got to take care of more than anybody on planet Earth is you. It's something that I wrestle with. Candy, when somebody passes away here on the lifeboat, I take it personally. And it's not necessarily particularly healthy, right? but it's something that all of us do. And it's a blessing that you saw your friend last month. The fact that you didn't see him this month doesn't have anything to do with why that happened, and it's not something that you can take blame for. It is important to check in on those that you love. It's also important to be your brother's keeper. It is. This is an addiction that's ugly as hell, and it requires a whole lot of effort from a lot of people to make it happen. However, the responsibility of staying sober falls on you, right? And you and you and me. It's nobody else's responsibility. It's not my responsibility to help anybody here get sober. I love what I do. I think that it's great that we all come together and talk about this, but my responsibility lies in making sure that I don't do dope ever again. That's the only ticket I got to punch, and it's the only ticket you got to punch. And sometimes when we lose somebody, especially to something senseless, it makes that process hard. So just self-care today, Candy. Self-care today would really be a good thing. So the longer I'm sober, in theory, the less that the things from my past should become an issue, right? The longer that you've spent away from the things that you've done that you're not proud of, the easier they should be. However, sometimes the nature of life means that things from our past will be forced back into the limelight. You find yourself in places where it's impossible to not be reminded of your previous lifestyle. I have people that I care about in my immediate family who, struggle with substance abuse, and that's something else that I take very personally. If you happen to be a niece or a nephew that is struggling with substance abuse, I feel like maybe that's somebody I ought to be able to help out, seeing as their family. Once again, our responsibility, at least for somebody sitting in this chair, my responsibility ends when I have articulated what I feel about somebody and their position. I had a long talk with somebody the day before yesterday, and it's somebody that has been on the boat for a long time, and they're struggling, right? It's a really hard process to get sober. But after about 2 years of continually doing the same thing again and again and again, and hoping for, maybe not expecting a different result, but certainly hoping for one. There are people that over time you have to sort of, you have to say, that what you're doing isn't going to get you anywhere near sober, right? And with all due respect, I'm not going to sit and chase my tail for the rest of my life trying to help you, because it's going to be messing with my sobriety. One of the boundary things that we talked about on the boat, my brother came on, did a great show. Right after the both of us had heart trouble in the course of about 2 or 3 weeks, I started trying to set boundaries. And this has been one of the most incredible things for me. This whole boundary concept is one of the most incredible things. And what I've come to realize is that saying no to people, as difficult as it is almost 100% of the time saying yes to your sobriety. That you're putting their sobriety before yours. And that's, your sobriety has to come before everyone else's. Me saying no is not just, it's not just putting up a fence around me. It's also putting a fence around all of you, right? Truthfully, if I'm doing my job right, then you shouldn't be thinking, boy, old Tommy can help me get sober, right? If I'm doing this right, it's the fact that you're here and that you're going to take care of yourself. Captain, oh Captain, my new life without weed, booze, benzos, morphine, opiates is a total new experience. I see things totally clear. Life quality increased 300%. Huge game changer. Thank you, Swiss Vapor. I talk about vape a lot on here. If you've never seen our interview, you should go back. He is a gentleman who has had to deal with some pretty heavy stuff from war and PTSD, and like he just said, he managed to quit weed, booze, benzos, morphine, and opioids. That is an impressive run, and the weed thing was the last of the of the things that he's quit. I'm proud as hell of you, Vape. I really am. And you've done this. You've done this with a pretty incredible past that you got to come to grips with. For those that don't know, he was a sniper, and I wrestle with the things that I did under the influence. All of us do. I was blessed to never see combat. I can't imagine, and my heart goes out to everyone here on the boat who has gone through anything remotely like that. I have PTSD from watching odd forms of combat in prison, but I can't imagine being Jess Gunn says, my ex's addictions broke me. It's been over 30 years. If you are an active addict, stay away from me. But if you are trying to stay clean, I will feed you and give you a roof, and I will listen. It's a beautiful sentiment, Jess, and not one that a lot of people who had lived with an addict for 30 years could maintain that kind of attitude. That's actually a beautiful thing. And God bless you, Jess, and I'm sorry. This is one of those things. And this is one of those things that perfectly highlights what I'm talking about. I did a lot of people dirty with active addiction for over 30 years. It's just that I cycled through a bunch, as opposed to Jess's actually would have stayed with someone for 3 decades. During that 3 decades, I just trashed a lot of people that cared enough about me to get close. And it's another one of the things that you think back on, right? I've got a few ex-wives, and both of them are casualties of the fact that I was addicted to drugs. And if you really go back and you check all of it and take it back to the beginnings, would I have married either of them not on drugs? Probably not. I mean, truthfully, that's one of those things that I most assuredly wouldn't have done sober. Right? I don't regret it. I have beautiful kids. Everything that happened for a reason. But what now? Right? Give you an example of the kind of things that I mean. So you're not out in the limelight, so to speak. But if you put yourself out here, then I go and I do interviews, and you've seen me do a bunch of them. And the purpose of the interview is the same thing every single time. Tell us about robbing a bank. Right? How did that feel? Or tell us about organized crime, or tell us about whatever they're hoping to highlight from my past. No one ever has you on and says, wow, you got out of prison and you're trying to help people. Tell us that story. That story doesn't sell, right? It really doesn't. And part of the kick of this whole sobriety thing, I've told the story on here. I had somebody say something to me that was one of those things that freezes you in your tracks. I literally had someone say to me, you cannot imagine the embarrassment of having a relative in prison. And the incredible thing is, it wasn't somebody that doesn't know I've been to prison, right? It's somebody that had a real good handle on my past. In a perfect world, I'd tell you, that didn't make me feel any kind of way, right? I just sort of let that roll right off my shoulders. But that's not, it sounds good. It's not something that anybody can do. And I took that immensely personally. Now, that person may have not just clicked to what they said, and the fact that it had barbs, right? That it hurt. Arya Schleider, God bless you. I'm glad you're here. You're in my thoughts and prayers, as are all of your fellow countrymen. I mean that. It's a rugged time. It really is. But my thoughts and prayers are with you. And welcome to the lifeboat. I'm glad that you're here. One of the challenges of being a drug addict for 30 years is that I couldn't tell the truth to anyone that I ever met. We've talked about this a lot on the lifeboat. If you're in active addiction, you cannot be honest with the people around you. I also didn't make a living the way other people did. I stole for a living, right? So I certainly couldn't tell you when I was going to work, what I was doing at work, right? Anything work related had to be a lie because my job was to steal. This is something that leaves you with a long and checkered past. What if you meet somebody who wants to know who you are? I mean, like all of who you are, right? Chances are, if you build a friendship with somebody, that your past is going to be something that is of interest to them. You start realizing that if I had to sit down and tell you my past, I don't even know what the hell past I would tell you. Right? 30 years of making up an existence to cover the one that you really live. And then you kind of got to try to go back and say, well, this is the one that I lived, I think. But during that time, I was telling everybody this, and this. Right? It almost becomes you almost need a private investigative firm, right, to tell you who you are. One of the most liberating things for me leaving prison and leaving drug addiction was leaving it, if that makes sense, right? I've been super open and honest about everything that I did in order to get sober, right? One of the things that I did was to be excruciatingly honest about the person that I was. Page 2, right? I wrote down every single thing that made me who I was. I didn't like any of it. And that's the truth. Very little of it anyway. I was pretty faithful to the people I cared about. That was something that I wanted to drag with me. There were a few things I wanted to take with me to the page 3 version of myself. The vast majority, I did not. The vast majority I tried to leave behind. And I say try to leave behind because there's only so much that you can do, right? Sporting a Bubba Gump shrimp hat, Steve Molesky. Steve, I'm glad you're here. Hope you're doing well, man. Hope you're feeling all right. Steve lost a human being. He was another cat that lost about the same amount of weight that my brother Alan Ballantyne did. Just huge amounts of weight. And you're in our thoughts and prayers with your health, brother. You really are. And it's good that you're doing well. And we're going to keep you in our thoughts and prayers for the heart. Your friend is dressing up goth today. You know, I missed the goth thing. I was, I guess, a little too old. Goth didn't really start popping up. We had a lot of punk guys and girls that kind of looked like goth before there was goth. But yeah, I missed goth. So the past is something that is going to either get in your way or not. And for the most part, all of us are going to struggle mightily with our past. Hang in there, Steve. Thoughts and prayers with your brother. Hang in there. I don't wrestle with bank robberies. I don't, never too old for goth. Well, thank you, Jess. I'm too old for everything. But I was too old to see goth in its natural environment based on the year that I was born. How's that? I think that sounds better. That Scooby's in agreement because Scoob definitely looks the part too. And another late happy birthday, Zen Wen, just because I won't get to do that for another 365 days, the good Lord willing. Yeah, well, I can almost count on the fact that if I say I'm too old, Miss V's going to say, no, you're not, Tommy. You know what? I could probably pull off goth once. I'm sure that I probably even have something laying around. Maybe I'll do that. I pull off a night show tonight. Lori T, good to see you. Welcome to the Lifeboat. The topic today is coming to grips with the things that you've done in your past. And I'll be really honest. For some of us, it's going to have to be a new slate. Some of us, it's not going to be I can live with all that crap. It's all good. I'm embracing that. This is what I did. It's all going to be all right. For a lot of us, it is just restarting. It is creating a new you. This is going to be the most difficult thing that you will do in life. And I don't mean creating a new part of you or creating an entire new you. Honestly, that worked beautifully for me. Um, Thank you. That's a really kind thing to say. I appreciate that. Creating the new you isn't that difficult a thing to do. In all honesty, it was fantastic for me. It was cathartic and it was life changing. I got to sit down and say, "This is what I want to be." That's honestly as liberating as anything in the world. However, the rest of the world might not be on board with that, right? Um, oh, if you're old enough to get that, that's just such a great joke. There has to be a little goth in everyone. Now is the time on Sprockets when we dance. I can actually do the Sprockets dance perfectly. I'm not going to get up and do it, though. I love the honesty in this room, says Steve. Yeah. It beats the alternative, right? If you lie to yourself, you may as well just keep using. You may as well keep using. You will eventually go back to it, and you'll go back to it more miserable than ever. I promise. BSing others is one thing, but when you start lying to yourself, it's a difficult thing. I told you I did an interview about a little over a week ago. I did an interview with someone that you haven't seen yet. It hasn't posted or done. Actually, there's about 3 interviews out now currently that haven't posted yet. Without honesty, sobriety is almost impossible. It is impossible. It is. Because once the realization that you BS yourself kicks in, you'll go back to whatever drug used to take that feeling away. Right? Believe me. If you're BSing yourself at all in sobriety, then you're done. Now, lying to other people, not a great idea either. It's not. However, it's going to be hard, isn't it? If again you spent 3 decades creating a persona to every single person you met, trying to hand somebody that persona from your past and say, put this thing back together, could be a very difficult thing to do. And more importantly, or just as importantly, it might be something you're not willing to do. This is something that you're going to have to come to grips with through the process of your sobriety. And that is, when you share with somebody who you have been your entire life, that's a pretty heavy thing to do under the best of circumstances, right? 2 people meet each other, become best friends, start a business together, do whatever. Chances are they're not going to know a third of what really made that person tick when they were your 75-pound American bully is being crazy already. Well, it's always good. A crazy animal in the morning always gets people ready to roll. Welcome to Coffee Talk. I'll give you a topic. Rhode Island is neither a road nor an island. Discuss amongst yourselves. Good stuff. Jeremy's always there for the good older Saturday Night Live reference. How far back are you going to hand you to this business partner friend of yours? Do you sit down and tell that person every single thing about you from the day you took your first breath? If it's, something that needs to be discussed. Obviously, the ancillary BS. But when we start talking about the things that we did that we're not proud of, what you're really doing is confessing all of your sins. Right? Now, I'll tell you something. There are people in your life that's going to be worth doing for. There are going to be people in your life that isn't worth doing for. And I'd be really careful which one you hand your past to. Right? One of the things that happens to us as addicts is we're overwhelmed with freaking guilt from the things that we've done in our past, to the point that we will play that to our own detriment, if that makes sense. Especially when I first got sober, I was willing to dump every single thing in the world on any single person that was willing to listen to it, because I felt like I owed the world some kind of something, right? Everybody deserved to know what a dirtbag I was, and everybody deserved to know my criminal history, and everybody deserved to know, because to me, that's what sobriety meant. It meant not being the person that I used to be. And the way that I was going to do that is to make sure that people know the person that I used to be and the person that I was going to become. 99% of the planet has no right to know anything about my past unless I happen to come here and share it. But if you want to ask me questions about the things from my past, it's hard when you get interviewed all the time constantly, because you find yourself wanting to say, you know what, that one's outside it's none of your business, right? But their job is to try to make talking to you interesting, right? So everything kind of falls into that purview. But be very careful who you decide to give complete access to every aspect of your life, right? They more than likely will not look at your past the same way that you do, right? And it's going to change how they look at you. It is. There are people that are worth that. Your job is going to be to find out who those people are. My parents just came to Florida to visit me. Been telling my mom about your channel and how helpful it is. She just watched a few minutes with me and smiled ear to ear. She's happy I found your channel. Jenny, what a cool thing to say. That is really a cool thing to say. That's awesome. Tell your mother we said hello. We're glad she checked out a few minutes of the boat. I read somewhere that every single person sees you differently, and it would surprise us to see what they see. Deeming, I believe that, and I've read similar studies and similar things. It's unusual. It's a fascinating subject, how people view you versus how you view yourself, right? Some of us are really, really hard on ourselves, and we probably view ourselves in a less favorable light than the people around us do. That's a reality, I think, for a lot of people. And then there are people who just, I probably have a slight arrogant, no, I do. There's probably a bit of narcissism in anybody that can sit in front of a camera for 1,400 hours, right? I have, and I say this all the time, I have come to grips with the things that I've done in my past. I made peace with the things that I've done in my past. I probably say that, 15, 20 times a week. The trouble is you don't really know if you've done that until you realize that you haven't. You feel like you've made peace with your past and everything is groovy until your past shows up, right? Or something happens that's going to drive that past home in a way that you're going to have to deal with it in a way that maybe you thought you had up to that point, but hadn't. Am I making any sense? Right? An ex-girlfriend popping into your life can really make you look at how you were as a person in relationships, where if that person doesn't show up in your life, you might go a real long time without thinking about it, right? The ghost of Christmas past shows up in a lot of different forms. And when it does, it makes us take a really good look at who we are. I just want to stand up right now and do the time warp. So always a good Rocky Horror Picture Show reference. Let's do the time warp again. All right. You don't have to tell her, Valerie 102. You're a person, not a label. I like that. I like that. Let's go back and see what the hell we were talking about, though. I got a friend that says they don't care about the dead air. I'm tempted to just sit here for 5 minutes of silence to see if that person's telling me the truth. Thank you, Kelly. I recently moved from my sister's to a rented room, and I've told my roommate about being a drunk. I know she'd be watching every move, and I've not told my roommate, I'm sorry, about being a drunk. I know she'd be watching watching every move I make. You know what? That Valerie is completely up to you, and she's right. You're not a label. You can choose whatever you want new people to see. Right now, I will throw in one caveat. That changes if the person that you meet falls in love with you. Right? If you fall in love with somebody, then you kind of got to crack the books on your past. That's my humble opinion. Or you tell them why you're not going to. Right? I think it's probably fair to sit down with a person that you're going to be a partner with, be it a business or a marriage or whatever, and say, there are parts of my past I will talk to you about, to tell you what I did, when I did it, whatever. But I don't feel like living it. I don't want to rehash it. I don't want to, if you don't tell people what your boundaries are, then they'll just create one for you. Right. And that boundary is going to put you in a place that you're not comfortable with. I have, by nature of what I am doing for a living, removed off the table my ability to say, I'm not going to talk about this for a crap load of my past, right? I have made a conscious choice that part of what I do for the rest of my life is going to be to talk to people about the things that I've done. Doesn't mean everybody gets access. Honesty is not full disclosure. There you go. There you go. I think it's possible for us to be honest without full disclosure, right? And perhaps necessary. Now, on the bright side, you probably didn't rob banks, right? and end up in prison and do some of the things. I'm telling you, I love a little dead air. You know what it comes down to, people? Your community, family plays a big part in it. Example, Charleston, Massachusetts, bank robbery is a generational thing. No one raised an eyebrow to hear it. Well, isn't that funny, Deeming? Your community and family plays a big part in it. Example, in Charleston, Mass, bank robbery is a generational thing. No one raised an eyebrow to hear it. That's funny as hell. Bank robbery is a generational thing. There's a point in life where everything that you do makes sense. Right? There's a point in your life where everything you do makes sense. And then you look back on it and you think, good Lord in heaven, how? Right? Good Lord in heaven, how was anything that I did in my life normal? How was it that what I did for that many years, I somehow spun in my head as this is okay? Right? This makes perfect sense. Yeah. You know what? I don't talk about a huge amount of the past ever, except here. But it's fine. It's just me venting. You know what, Kath? I'm glad that there's a place you're talking about it. Again, these are important things to talk about, right? Providing that you're cool with that. It's a difficult thing. Despite all my trust issues from my first relationship with an addict, I keep making friends with people who I later find out are addicts. Makes no sense to me. Well, let me help it make sense to you. More than half of the people walking this planet are addicted to something. And depending on who you ask, it's probably closer to about 80%. Throw in this thing and food and everything else, and there's not a person on planet Earth that's not addicted to something. We also, this is just going to sound awful, and I'm just going to say it because there's no other way to say it. But as a heroin addict, I was a machine at finding women that wanted to help me get sober. It's just how it is. And I don't know, in hindsight, when you look back on these things, you think, did I target people who wanted to help me get sober? Or is it that people who care about you always want to help you get sober, right? I mean, but for a long time, there was always a person in my life who was really addicted to my addiction. I found codependent people consistently, one right after the other. And I think that very often, we continue to attract the same kind of people and are always shocked that we do. But for me, if you start going down the road of having a relationship again after the amount of time that I spent sober, I'm not going to find the same person that I found the previous 3 times. I promise you. right? I am definitely have evolved so dramatically from the person that I was that I'm not very likely to end up with somebody like the last person that I was with. I radically redesigned so much about my life that if I were to fall back into that, it would feel so foreign that I'd be like, what in the hell am I doing? Right? Something's wrong here. Oh boy, that's legit. Kathy says the most reason I stay silent is because I teach and I don't want any parents or kids Googling that type of thing. I get it, right? Although there's nobody on earth that hasn't Googled me, and and far better than that, it can be a challenge like you wouldn't believe to go and start piecing through the past of someone who's ever been a criminal, right? Because court cases pop up and that gives people time frames, and there's other stuff that pop up, and but boy, I can give somebody years of onion peeling if they're so inclined. But sorry. Oh, codependent people. I'm targeted so much by addicts and homeless and everyone's problems. It's also because I have no one and I look like an easy target. Um, I don't know. I can't speak intelligently to the end of that. Um, the easy target part. I can't make any kind of intelligent comment on that. But when you say targeted, uh, I don't know that we target. I ended up with a lot of codependent people. I don't think I targeted them. I sure as hell found them, but I don't think that I have. I don't think I've ever. I don't think it was a conscious thing on my part. I just somehow attracted that. Kathy, you'll have a great time. It's although there's probably people out there doing it professionally. I could give you their numbers. I've been single since I've been sober. Still not quite ready to venture out because I don't want to get to relationship again that might be abusive or toxic. Good for you. I'm sorry. Good for you. There's there's nothing wrong with being single. There really isn't, especially in the beginning. Look, I quit 8 years ago, right? I have really worked on myself for that 8 years. Uh, uh, yeah. Um, and your number one job is to protect yourself, right? Your job is to stay sober until they close the wooden box. Everything else, right? Everything else is secondary. That's your job. Your job is to make sure the box gets closed without you caving and doing drugs again. You know what, Russ? This is very interesting. Actually, this is very interesting. Russ says, "Tommy, I've actually seen my name in a Google search of a name that pulled up a guy doing life in prison in New York for the R word. So Google is wrong. Well, Google can be. You also have a name like Russ Hampton, right? Like if your name was Ingve Malmsteen, there's probably a few less people that are going to pop up if you Google. But Russ Hampton, I promise you, there's a grip of, right? And yeah, that can get confusing. And I know as a convict, you've been there, Russ. I get this stuff all the time. Once, without exaggeration, once a week, somebody mails me a bank robbery photo of me that I didn't do. I get one once a week without fail. And it'll be somebody on the boat. They're never being mean. They're just always like, "Oh my God, I Googled you and I read about a bank you did." And I'll be like, maybe. There were a lot of people born with my previous name. A lot. In fact, with the same first, middle, and last name, there were 380 on AOL alone. Back in the day, when I was trying to get my name on AOL, there were 380 in numbers before I got to one that would accept it, so I didn't go with it. Random fact about me: I always speak my truth to Lyft, Uber, and taxi drivers. I mean, I don't blurt everything out, but if it comes up, I say it. They're good listeners typically and have good advice. You know what, Valerie? This is really funny. Johnny Scoville and I had a conversation about this the other day. I think you get to a point in life, and maybe it's it's lifeboat and just watching people struggle or whatever. But I've gotten to a point where my give a crap is just gone. Right? It's gone. If one of the things that I revel in more than anything in the world is having the opportunity to tell somebody about sobriety, especially if it's going to bum them out a little bit. Honestly, the people that seem to really struggle with that are the people who are really judgmental, and you can tell that, and they start talking, and you hear that judgmental attitude as they're talking about someone else. It was always a fun. Yeah, I did a little of that too. I was addicted to drugs for a while, and they'll go, "Oh, really? Well, my relative is doing this, this, and this. Yeah, I robbed banks." Right? There's something about the shock of saying that to somebody who's probably judging someone else for something less. That's just a really good time. Honestly, it's just one of those things. When I was a makeup artist, people used to tell me all kinds of things that sat in my chair. Oh, I believe that. I believe that. I was a theater major in college originally, like the first time around, and there was a woman that used to do my makeup, who was older than I was. I had met her doing theater, and we became super good friends. But yeah, I mean, I remember I played Satan in a play called JB, and it would take her like 2 hours to get the makeup done. And yeah, by the time you're done, you've told them everything in the world. Makeup chairs are terrible. They really are. They're terrible. Ian, I would imagine the Army probably has a way of slapping that give a crap level out of you in the service. And thank you for your service, Ian DeBow. Really appreciate it. That goes to all of you. Anybody out there that went and sacrificed so that I could be an idiot and commit crime while you were out doing difficult and courageous things. My hat is off. You found a tracking app that I can log every cigarette. You need to do that, Cheryl. You need to do that. Keeping track is an amazing thing, and it really is a something for perspective. I had a friend that got rich coming up with a little thing that looked like a pager. It was a concept that he came up with when we were in college, and I didn't find out until years later that he had actually done it. But he had this little device that he made for people, and it would allow you to smoke the exact same way that you smoke normally. So when you first start, it says, "Okay, I smoke 20 cigarettes a day." Right? And it asks you to continue smoking normally the way you always would. Right? And you tell the device every time you do it. Right? So once you've done this, and it's like a week, 10 days or whatever, then you go into quit mode. The device now tells you when to smoke. Now, the funny thing is, it doesn't even cut down on the cigarettes. It gives you the same number of cigarettes over the purpose. Lord, I can't speak. It's going to give you the same number of smokes over the same period of time, right? But it's going to break them up. So it's not going to let you have a cigarette right after your lunch, which you obviously do all the time, right? And it's not going to let you continue to do the same schedule. And when it starts breaking it up and forcing you to smoke a cigarette at a time that you normally don't, he got really rich. I don't know how successful the whole program was, but the concept was to radically change everything that you're doing. You could still have the symptom, right? But whatever was causing it and how we were causing it and what time they messed with. Squirrel has made her appearance. Yes, it's almost official now. We can all but call it a day. And this is going to be a short one, peeps. It really is. I thought a hippopotamus was just a really cool eponymous. There you go. So that would be the hip eponymous. Right? Wicked cool eponymouses are hip. But this is going to be a short one today, and there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is that last night was another one of those really fantastic nights of sleep. And I'm going to get some under my belt today because it's going to be one of those days. I promise it's going to be a long one. So, trainee human, Man, you just caught alive because I was going to wrap this thing up early. I'm so glad that you got here. Training human from the other side of the pond. I'm almost 100% sure. That SIG app sounds good for me. You know what, Kath? You can do the same thing. It's just that when you smoke, right? You smoke after a meal. You smoke after anything fun. Giggity. Start breaking up when you normally smoke, right? Do it at times where you don't normally dig it. You know what? Since two of you have already asked, I will look into that app and find out if it's still available when I come back tonight. Okay, I promise you. I know you're going to rewatch it. You're the rewatch crew. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. I really do. It's called a smoking log. Well, that makes a lot of sense, wouldn't it? Right? That would make a lot of sense if you're keeping track of all of the smoke. A smoking log would be a great name for it. The annual respiratory infections were part of what motivated me to quit. It's a good place to push off from. Wow, Susie Q. Kat Kaplan, good to see you. Welcome back. It's always nice when somebody comes back, right? Means you guys did something right the first time. All right, peeps. I'm going to run this one by and call it a day. Wish all of you a happy Halloween. Silver shimmer. And I am going to go off and do that Mad Hatter thing, that voodoo that I do. Hang in there, Kathy. Bronchitis sucks. Hang in there. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and this little thing here is a cat in a basket. Super annoying cat in a basket. She was really something last night. I'll see you all, the good Lord willing, tonight at 5:00. The good Lord willing. Zenwen, thank you so much. Z-Dub, happy birthday again, hon. Hope you had a great one. And I will see all of you at a later date. God bless.